Yep. Okay, Lynn, we are live. We are live. Okay. Afternoon all. It's Adi here with Lynn Leong. Now, Lynn is, for those of you who don't know, a neurophysiotherapist and a yoga coach. And Lynn's been a member with us for over a year now, and we've got to know each other reasonably well. And as soon as normal happens, Lynn will be a resident at our facility in Rotherham on a couple of days a week, treating people. So over the last couple of to Lynn's area of speciality, which are physiotherapy, and also yoga coaching, and working with people from a whole kind of wide range of issues, Lynn, from Parkinson's disease to everybody else, people coming along for yoga work, etc. So what we thought we would do today is basically summarize what we've talked about, make it short, make it punchy, summarize what we've talked about. So stress, the use of breath work, and some breathing drills for you guys to do at home. Lynn, but before we start, I saw you put up a post in the week about the current situation with regards to the coronavirus and people trying to give instructions on breathing, on some breathing work you can do to help, etc. and things. What was that about, Lynn, if you don't mind me asking? What was
So it was in response. There's been well, there's lots of information going around, isn't there? But there was a particular video going around with someone teaching breathing exercises, and in physio it's called the active cycle of breathing, and so it's used by physios and especially respiratory physios. But in this video, it was taught quite poorly. So I had people sending the video, and then I kept writing little comments at the bottom saying, "Oh yeah, do it that way, but then add it, in certain ways." I'll go through what they are, and so then I thought I'd just post the article, and it actually had a response from the CSP, which is our the physio representation. So it was just.
so? Just I'm interested now. The active cycle of breathing. Tell me more. What's that, Lynn? Sorry.
So the active cycle of breathing is just a technique that is used and physios use, and it is basically just breathing well, using your inhale and using exhale, and using it as a way of making sure that we're getting, full use of the lungs, rather than maybe people who aren't breathing as well or are just breathing up at the top of the lungs.
Yeah. So basically, like just conscious breathing in a way, kind of thing. That makes sense. Yeah.
Just breathing well. Yeah, we breathe all the time, obviously, but we don't always breathe well.
No.
So it's a inhale. It's holding the inhale. So it gives more time for the secondary parts of the lungs, or for more of the lungs to be used, and then use a long exhale. So it's just breathing, good quality breathing. But in this particular video, the person was showing it doing the breath through the mouth.
Right.
Which isn't really a great way.
No.
To breathe, especially not at rest. Yeah. So definitely breathing in through the nose, and then you're getting all the benefits of breathing through the nose, of filtering the air and of warming the air and humidifying, which is much better for us.
Yeah. Excellent. It's quite. I think we'll both agree on this. Hopefully, that it's one of those things. I think with what's developed in our industries, the healthcare and even in the fitness industry, is that everybody looks at the tiny kind of detail. Let's say, for example, with rehabilitation, any movement will help, because you're going to get increased vascularization or blood flow to those areas. So any movement you can do is helpful, if that makes sense. And just like you were saying with regards to the breathing, it's the same again. Just good quality breathing is a great thing to do. Just like any pain-free movement, typically can be just a great thing to do. So much of it is just being like black belt in the basics, and just doing the very basics well, isn't it? You know?
Absolutely. Like, yeah, the fundamentals of it are in a way quite simple. Um, the
But
execution of it isn't always as
yeah,
simple.
yeah, exactly. And they're also not the most marketable things, are they? You know, I still think people sometimes think that I'm not fobbing them off, but when they come to me and when they got back pain, it's kind of like, you know, I've gone away from a model of looking in the tiniest detail and just looking at what people are doing from a lifestyle point of view, and treating it very kind of holistically, because that's where the evidence suggests from my history, and you know, and all the rest of it. But I think people almost want that kind of very targeted kind of treatment approach, don't they? So absolutely right. Okay, Lynn, let's crack on then. So one of the first things we talked about in the our first interview, if we could recap on it, it's the whole thing at the moment, but not at the moment, in life generally, about managing stress. Okay. What effect does it have on our breathing when we go through a stressful period? How does it affect our breathing mechanics, and what difference can that make to our kind of body, Lynn?
Well, so stress in its short-term sense would drive up our heart rate, drive up our respiratory rate if we're looking at that short, sharp burst. And the story is always, you know, evolutionary sense when we came against a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. There's always that kind of adage, and so it would put us into action. So it drives up respiratory rate, drives up heart rate, drives up blood pressure, and then normally that would then come back to resting levels. But yeah, as our lifestyle is generally, not just at the moment, but generally, our bodies stay in that state. So um, the respiratory rate would be higher. It would often be more shallow. People will pick up on poor habits of breathing. So rather than using, you know, the most efficient way of breathing, we'll start picking up poor habits, which then can affect other parts of the body.
So in the olden days, the saber-toothed tiger used to come around every once in a blue moon kind of things, but I think we'll probably agree nowadays with the probably maybe down to mobile technology, or people's work, etc., that we're exposed to those stressful situations. Probably not that I was alive back then, but we're probably exposed to those stressful situations more often, aren't we? That's the kind of common thought, isn't it? And we get that stress response, and it almost becomes the new norm in a way.
It becomes the new norm. I think that's it, isn't it? It just keeps going. So we stay in this level, maybe a lower level, but a level of stress that isn't healthy for our bodies.
No.
Yeah, and so we were talking about the breath and using. This is going back to what we were saying about um, uh, things being simple. You know, what we were talking about a moment ago, and saying when we use breath, some people will say, well, you know, I breathe. Everybody
Yeah.
breathes. You know, we all breathe. We don't need to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
But that is actually one of the benefits, because it allows us to access into the autonomic nervous system. It allows us to access into that stress response and into the systems of the body that we don't normally have to pay attention to.
Yeah. So we just touched on the word there, the autonomic nervous system, Lynn, and it's a bit technical, but I love my clients knowing this, because I think, you know, from working with guys like you, Dr. Mark Bellamy, who maybe we'll interview next week again, if you understand how the body works, and if you understand how the brain works in stressful times, I personally found it a weight off my shoulders, knowing that it's not just me behaving that way. It's how we as humans work, and it's a perfectly natural thing. It's not me, you know, having a moment, or whatever you kind of, you know, however you want to put it. So Lynn, let's go through the nervous system.
So, so you have the peripheral nervous system where you have the spinal cords and you have the nerves that come up the spinal cord, and they will create movement for us, right? And they carry on information about sensory information back up. And so that's to do with movement and function and muscles and that side of the nervous system. And then you've got the autonomic nervous system, which deals with everything else in a way, in a very oversimplified way. So it keeps all our systems working, and feeds the organs. And within the autonomic nervous system, we've got two sides to it. We can think of it as two sides. We've got the sympathetic, which is like our fight or flight, or fight, flight, or freeze would be the other aspect of that. So gets us ready to take action, or we see it in animals with the fright and the freeze. And then we've got the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, so the calming side. There isn't actually two sides in that way, but it's the calming down side, and it's that we need to bring into balance more. Typically, we as a culture tend to be too wound up or too stressed or too into that sympathetic state.
Yeah, and I kind of like sometimes draw like I do a seesaw. So that there's too much and too little of either of these things is not good. It's getting that balance right between those things, isn't it? So and again, with stress, different people react differently. So whether it be musculoskeletal pain or migraine, people's digestive system can change, can't they? And people's respiration rate can change. So different people react differently to stress, Lynn. Would that be true?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a definite look on your face then. It was an absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. And it is, and it will affect it will affect all of our system. It's not just going to be.
Yeah. And I think if people can just tune into that with themselves, you'll probably pick up on traits about how you kind of how you do deal with things, and notice sense feelings, whether it be an increase in your respiratory rate, whether it be without being too detailed, bowel function, etc. How people can do things. Okay, so that's great, Lynn. As you know, I'm very much into that, and I love the fact that the clients can hopefully learn a bit about the autonomic nervous system themselves and learn how to kind of be more self-aware. I think is the thing, isn't it, with regards to that. Now, Lynn, let's move on to now our the use of breathing work, and if you could give us a quick summary of how breathing work can be beneficial relative to what we just spoke about with the nervous system.
So the breathing work or conscious breathing exercises in yoga, pranayama, but working with our breath, generally stimulates the vagus nerve, or the vagal nerve, which comes up from branches from the stomach and comes up through the middle of the thorax. And by activating there, it will activate more of the parasympathetic nervous system. So it activates more of the rest and digest. So it will do things like reduce respiratory rate, reduce blood pressure, bring us out or away from, or that seesaw that you mentioned, balance out from that, the stress response.
Okay, great stuff. So, right, so in our first session, I've got my notes here from the previous sessions. We've got our diaphragmatic breathing. So tell us, Lynn, in a nutshell, what we're doing wrong with our breathing. What do you see, and probably I see, but just if you summarize for us, what do we see with people's breathing typically, and where do we need to shift to with our breathing?
Well, there's lots of different patterns, but one of them would probably be not using the diaphragm. The diaphragm being, you can't quite see on my camera, but the big dome muscle at the bottom of the rib cage, and it's a big, effective and efficient way of breathing. And I guess not using the diaphragm properly to breathe is one of the most common things I see. People doing very shallow breaths, breathing up here, chest breathing, so lots of movement up at the top of the lungs, but not getting breath down to the bottom of the lungs.
Yeah.
So diaphragmatic breathing is sitting, well, any position, but sitting or lying would be the easiest.
Okay.
Someone getting their hands onto their belly, onto their abdomen or the upper abdomen.
Yeah.
And, breathing and starting to feel that there's this movement of the abdomen coming out as you breathe in and dropping back down as you breathe out, and that's the movement from the diaphragm.
And it is trying to get so it's rather than breathing up and down, it's breathing laterally as well, or sideways. So notice trying to get your abdominals to fill out sideways under your rib cage, rather than you lifting your chest up and down like so. Yeah. So we're trying to get more lateral movement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, with the diaphragmatic breathing, the way I would teach it, it would be more about feeling the movement of the upper abdomen, because as the diaphragm is like a dome muscle underneath the rib cage, and as it pulls down, the pressure then pushes the abdominal contents, like the organs and abdomen, out, and that's what gets that movement. So it's more about feeling the so if someone's lying on their back, it's easy to say that the upwards movement and the downwards movement from the abdomen. It's rather more about feeling that than the sideways movement of the ribs.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Good stuff.
But yes, you would get that too, but very much coming away from the chest.
Yeah. So like lying on your back when you got one hand on your upper chest kind of area and one hand on your tongue kind of thing, trying to make it much more dominant in the abdominal area rather than the chest area kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that might take a long time for someone to do, depending on how many years they've been breathing a certain way and past history and experience, and not something that happens naturally necessarily.
No. And I think we've picked up on before, we're not always in this stress state. When we're sleeping, we go back to breathing naturally, don't we, Lynn? Is that right? You were saying? Yeah. And also, I think one key point you said last week, and we agreed upon again with a general principle of training, that there's nothing wrong with just sticking to the same thing, just becoming really, really proficient and getting practice. So don't try and rush through and learn you can learn as many as you want, but there's no harm at all in just becoming super efficient and super proficient as well in the one kind of practice. If that's correct, isn't it? What we said, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And from a yoga perspective, the awareness of our breath, the aim, if you like, would be to have an observance of our breath for the whole of our waking day, which is again very simple, but very difficult to do.
Exactly. Kind of. I just reflect.
Very complex, new ways and exercises for breathing.
Yeah, cool. So after we then went into what we call in our first session 4-7-8 breathing, Lynn. Yeah, just go through that drill again if we can for those people who missed our first show.
So 4-7-8 breathing, breathing in and out through the nose if you can, although it could be through the nose and out through the mouth. And breathing in for a count of 4, holding the breath in for a count of 7, and breathing out for a count of 8. And you just do that on repeat. And as someone gets more practiced in it, that count might slow down. So initially the count might be faster because the breath is going to be shorter. It might not be that comfortable to have a very long, slow breath.
And again, the preferred positions with regards to people can be sitting or lying down when doing this, Lynn?
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. And are these drills the kind of thing you can do while stuck in some traffic as an alternative to road rage?
Alternative to road rage.
Yeah, exactly, but you don't have to be sat down in the middle of the wood with the bluebells out around you like today. You can be anywhere and practice these, can't you? Yeah.
Absolutely, and if you can, that's that's even better than doing it when we're in a very calm and beautiful place or state, and it can be used in that way. So it can be used if we get a craving and we use the breath, and by the time we've done four rounds of that breath, the craving might have gone.
So if I have a post-it note on my fridge door with 478 on or something like that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff. Okay, fine. And then last week we went on to box breathing, which was up, across the top, down, along the bottom, wasn't it? Then just explain a bit more about box breathing. This, I'm guessing this is the same breathing mechanics, but it's just mastery of the control.
So the box breathing is adding in a pause at the end of the exhale. Right. So the 4-7-8 breathing had 3 parts to it: breath in, hold, and breath out. And box breathing has the breath in, a hold, breath out, and a hold. So there's 4 parts to it there. And the length of the breath for the box breathing is the same, so it's the same count, and it's called box breathing because it's as if you're breathing around 4 sides of a box, of a square.
Okay, fine. So you're going up one side of the abdominals or along the top, down, and then pausing. So if you wonder why I'm looking quite strange, guys, on the camera, it's because I'm trying to do it at the same time as kind of like, okay. And it's one of those things, isn't it, where we quickly revert to type. It doesn't take much when you're doing something quite complex, a skill which is quite complex, like this is to me. You'll quickly revert to type and be dragged back to your normal breathing mechanics, unless you are kind of not engrossed but engaged in the process. You've got to be in an environment where you can really kind of focus on what you're doing. And I think you made a comment earlier on. It's kind of like to be aware of your breathing as more and more, the more proficient you get.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to be easier to do when you're not chatting and when you're not doing a Facebook Live session.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the box breathing, it would be someone would imagine or visualize a box, a square, essentially. Yeah. And then as you're doing the breath, as you're doing those 4 parts of the breath, as if you're moving around that square, around the 4 sides.
Excellent. Right. I need practice on that one because that's difficult to do, especially while doing a Facebook Live as well. Fine. Now, to finish off with, Lynn, we said we would do another drill which you found really useful in your practice and that people like, because I think, again, with all these things, there's the science and there's also what people enjoy and what you as a coach get good feedback about. And this was alternate nostril breathing. Tell me more.
It's kind of what it says on the tin.
I guess that, yeah.
And it's just from yoga perspective, it's said to balance the brain and balance the nervous system. From the science and the studies that I've read, it does that because mainly we're in that sympathetic nervous system in the stress response, and it balances out and brings us more into a restful state. So essentially it's breathing in through one nostril, out through the other.
Okay.
In through that nostril and out again. So you can talk about it a little bit more and how you do it in a sec. Probably not one to do while you're in the car. And I'll show you why. So you, as someone was doing it, they would block off one nostril or the other.
Okay.
So right. The easy way of doing it would be just to take your index finger and literally block off one nostril or the other. Yeah. Okay. And
somebody's not quickly glancing at this. I am hoping.
The traditional way would be to take 2 fingers and rest them on the center of the forehead, and then you block off your nostrils with your thumb and ring finger. I hope you can kind of see.
I'll try it.
Yeah, I can't quite see where.
Well, I got it.
Yeah. And so from the traditional hand position, using the hands or the fingers on the forehead is a way of concentrating our mind to that point. So you would block off, I won't do it because I can't talk at the same time, but so you would block off, say so your left nostril, breathe in through the right.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you block off your left, breathe in through your right, breathe out through your left, breathe back in through your left. So coordination. Breathing out through the right. And then back in through the right. That's it. So after you've exhaled through a nostril, you inhale through the same side. And you swap nostrils at the end of the inhale. Now again, it's going to be really hard to do at this.
Yeah, with lots going on. There you go. I needed to be seen to be doing it though. Okay, fine. Yeah, no, it's good. Again, one thing again, the same with training, isn't it? When you have point of contact, it gives you more feedback, doesn't it? Does that make sense? It allows you to focus. I do the same when people are squatting, elbows onto knees. When you squat, you know you finished a movement. So it just allows, yeah, it links the body, if that makes sense. It joins the skill up. Yeah.
So this is about bringing our concentration to this point, which means that we're maybe not thinking about all the other things.
And as you said, not to do that when driving, you would get some. You get some funny looks, and you probably get pulled over as well, wouldn't you?
I get in trouble, yeah. But that one, so and then staying with that pattern, and someone would do it for, you know, as long as feels comfortable. And again, the same with all the other breath practices we've talked about. The signal to stop may be because it feels uncomfortable, because the breath feels tight, because your body feels uncomfortable. But any of those reasons. So it's very simple again, but it's fantastic for calming us down.
And I think that's one thing, isn't it? It's kind of like, you know, even we've noticed over the last few weeks with people's habits, people either really struggle to do any exercise, or they go hell for leather. Okay, and then to me, it's about, I'm fine with people being more active, but it's about getting the balance of what those activities are, if that makes sense. Yeah. So you're spreading the load out. So you need to get energy in to burn it to get energy out. It's again, a bit of a seesaw kind of thing. The harder you kind of push, the more you need to get energy in to be able to do that. So it's, you know, what we're doing about, from my point of view here with the kind of breathing work, is really kind of making the most of your rest and your recuperation and your recuperation. So that's going to allow you to recover quicker and perform to a better level on many angles. So it's kind of like, I don't think that more and more physical work is better. It's kind of, what else can we do to maximize or improve our performance, or even just, when I say maximize performance, I mean even to relax more, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not talking about pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm talking about using what you taught us over the last couple of weeks to really kind of help us at this time, if that makes sense.
And relaxation is a skill to learn, and lots of us, you know, aren't well skilled at it. It's not something that's within the culture necessarily. It's not something that necessarily we do very well. And in the same way as anything else, it needs actual practice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I did a Facebook Live earlier on for our breakfast show at 10 o'clock, and you know, I've got a whole list of things I wrote down I wanted to do during lockdown. You know, and I wonder why I wrote that down. It's because it's just me. I have to have something to do. And I think different people are different, aren't they? And I think in you know, a couple of clients wrote back, it was all, we need to be happy just being, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
But yeah, I think being for me is just being busy though. It's kind of, you know, I think I search for, and I think some people might just search for, you know, I for example, I've been busy getting my lawn sorted. I've got a bit of a lawn fetish, and I have to admit. Okay, but then that was pure therapy to me, you know. So I still have to achieve something, but it's not. But it wasn't stressful. I've got blisters; they were stressful. Okay.
Yeah. And we can keep moving and doing things. It doesn't have to be.
No, exactly. It wasn't goal focused. It was, well, it was getting sorted. But Lynn, we call it a day there. I'd like to thank you very, very much for your time over the last 3 weeks. We'll hook up and we'll be in touch. And no, thanks. It's a fascinating area of work. And when we get up and going, or reopen the doors, I should say, because we're always up and going. But when we reopen the doors, we'll be sure to do some more and more workshops together and get you introduced to the rest of the crowd. So thank you very much from us all, Lynn.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adi. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Any questions or any comments, please put below, and we'll get back to you. Okay. Thank you.